Welcome back to my channel, and today we are back with a brand new topic that is related to my previous video on morphology of human heart by Deep Science Diaries. And if you have not yet watched it yet, give it a watch, and only then can you come back to this topic and learn the topic of discussion. So topic of discussion is anatomy of heart and circulation. Based on what we have learned earlier is the external structure of the heart, the position of the heart, what are its basic functions, the basics of circulation, and the different chambers of heart on a basic elementary level. Today we will be going on in depth and we will be discovering a new topic regarding valves, systolic and diastolic conditions, and different types of functions regarding the differences between arteries and veins. Okay. What are valves? We will be beginning with the topic that what are valves and why are we studying regarding valves in this video itself. We could have included it in the earlier video, but still we are bringing it on a separate topic of discussion because it's a very important, extremely important topic for fundamental basis of any exam or any competitive exam that you're preparing for, be it even board level or even on Olympiad level, on any level. This valve concept of valves in our human heart is very crucial to understand. That is why we are bringing it on a separate topic of discussion. So I think you have given it a good guess that valves are extremely important to restrict the flow of any fluid, be it gas, be it a fluid, or anything that has a tendency to flow. We want to restrict its flow in a unidirectional way. Uni being the prefix for singular, and direction means the suffix directing to any certain direction. In a unidirectional way, we are restricting its flow from point A to point B and not the other way back. From point A to point B and not the other way back. To give you a good illustration of the topic is, imagine that this is a blood vessel. This is situation A. Imagine it. This is the same blood vessel but in situation B. Okay. This right here is a valve. And this right here is a valve. Based on your plain observation, what can you differentiate between these two cases? Yes, this is somewhat not having a gap between it, but this is indeed having a gap between it. So we can term it that this closed, this open. Yes, very basic. This being open, this being closed. Okay. So imagine that this case is happening within the system of the heart, between its rhythmic contraction and relaxation. So between that rhythm, what we are observing that every time the heart is pumping blood, whenever it is pumping blood means pump, means the heart is contracting, and based on basic contraction, what we are seeing that blood is flowing from the heart it is contracting and the blood will flow to, yes, you guessed it right, towards the body. Although every time the heart is not exactly relaxing or contracting, both the situations will be occurring that heart will pump blood to the lungs simultaneously along with the body. But primarily what we are talking about the valve is open condition for heart to tissue or heart to body circulation. Remember the infinity loop that we do? This is the infinity loop that this is the left atrium, this is the left ventricle, right atrium, the right ventricle, and from the point this is the lungs, this is the lungs, and this is the tissue, and the blood is flowing from the right atrium to the right ventricle to the lungs, and then coming back to the left ventricle and left atrium, and it is continuously flowing like an infinity loop. Remember the concept? Okay, good revision. So from that case, what we can conclude that flow of the fluid in this case being blood, will only flow from point A to point B. From the same situation, if it is imagining like the valve being closed and it is contracting, these two valves will be open, these two valves will be closed. Okay, I will be discussing it more on a detailed basis. I will be also considering it on a very depth conceptuality, but still, just to give you a small trailer, imagine that this is the open valve. These two valves are closed. On ventricular systole, on ventricular contraction, the blood will flow in this direction. This is only the magnification situation of this. Okay, I will be creating a concept more. Imagine that this case is the magnification situation of this. Okay, When this situation is converting to this, when it is from ventricular systole to ventricular diastole, ventricular relaxation, then these valves will be closed. You can observe it, right? So when it is closed, then the blood won't flow back to the heart from the body or from the lungs. Okay, you at least just tell me that you already got the idea of what valve is. This is the main introduction of what valve is. This lecture will be very detailed, not very superficial. It will be very, very detailed. One by one, we will be clearing the concept. Okay, stay with me, bear with me, watch the concept. Slowly, we will be clearing the concept. Valves cleared. Still, if you are having difficulty, go to the comment box, share your doubts, share with the community, and yes, if you have learned it, then give a thumbs up. Okay. Now, coming back, let's just give some terminological names. Biology, everything about biology is naming. Okay? It is a golden rule, it is a golden trick that everyone must get it imprinted on their mind, that biology, if you can get a grip on the names, if you can get a grip on the terminological names, 80% of your work will be done. 80% of your work will be done if you just can remember the names just by the terms itself. Okay? Like from here, just for example, okay, let's just give you a trick. Like from the example itself, atrial systole. If anybody who is not aware, who does not even like biology, if he or she is coming across this term, they will tell me that what is it? What does it mean only? But if they even apply a cent percent of their focus on the topic itself, you can divide it into two groups. Atrial, systole. Atrial means regarding atria, atrium, the upper chamber of the heart, and systole means contraction. Atrial systole, atrial contraction. You got your answer. Answer lies on the name itself. That's biology for you. Okay. So we will be naming the valves, and from that we can determine its position, determine its function, determine from where to where the blood is flowing, etc. etc. So first of all, let's just name this. What can you see from the diagram itself? This structure is concluding of. Think. You have to think and name the term. If you do not apply your common sense, then no subject will be of interest to you. Think and tell me that just by looking at this structure, can you name it without prior knowledge of it? Yes, you do have guessed it right. From basic sense, what we are seeing is that three flaps, three strings, yeah, three projections are protruding from this point itself. So, can you remember any scientific term that is related to three? Yes? Try. Okay. Try. And do you have any basic idea about the term cusps? Yes, I'm grasping something. Cusp. Cusp means holding on to something. Okay? So, a projection that is holding on to another projection, then that term is related to cusp. It is a simple dictionary word. So, from here it is tricuspid valve. Just as that. Tricuspid valve. Three flaps from a single point of projection to the intra-atricular septum. Okay? The term is new to you, I understand, but if you have watched the earlier video of mine, then you will know that what are septums, what the position of septums are, and etc. etc. And from that you can understand the term. Don't worry, you'll be still clearing your doubts on the way. So this right here is the tricuspid valve. Now watch this term right here. You're seeing that two lines of projections are there. Two projections towards the atrioventricular septum. And from this point of projection right here, you're seeing that two flaps are protruding outwards. So we named it as tricuspid. Basic sense tells us that this will be bicuspid. As simple as that. So this right here will be bicuspid valve. Excellent. Now another new term that general anatomy and the subject has given to science is that this valve has another name called mitral valve. It's a new term, not just to get confused about. The name has arisen from itself. It's a basic terminological term. Bicuspid valve. Next thing that we're seeing is that the flow of the blood from different chambers of the heart, from where to where it is occurring, and under what conditions does it occur. Okay. What do you think that can we understand the flow of the blood from different points, be it from the lungs, be it from the body, be it from any capillary, be it from any junction? Can we understand their concept without having prior basics of what blood vessels actually conduct about? Yes. From the previous video, you know that we have discussed about the basic introduction, right? What blood vessels are, what do they do, what are its basic functions, but we have not come across its differences. What are the more innate differences regarding blood vessels? Now, as you know, blood vessels are two types, arteries and veins. Common hybridization between them is the capillaries. Yeah, common hybrid. The point of junction between these two is the capillary. Okay, just to give you a small external point of discussion is that capillaries are of approximately size 8 micrometers. Definitely, yeah. Capillaries are almost 8 micrometers in diameter, or I should say in radius as well. So this is external value. From here, what we are seeing is that the junction between these two major vessels, capillaries, are adjoining. From your observation, can you tell me that what do capillaries actually perform? We know that arteries carry generally oxygenated blood, with the exception being the case of pulmonary veins or pulmonary arteries. That is the exception, but generally it is carrying arteries for oxygenated blood. Same go on the opposite for veins. Then what exactly do capillaries do? Not only do they serve as a junction between these two major blood vessels, but they also serve as a point of diffusion of gases. On the previous video, I did tell you that without the cause of respiratory system, circulatory system will serve as a wide system in our human body. Without oxygen, no metabolic processes can perform catabolically or anabolically. Okay, I will tell you that metabolism is consisting of two parts, yeah, catabolism and anabolism. Confusing, right? It is a basic concept. If you do come across the new chapter regarding the living world in class 11's CBSE syllabus, then you will know in this term. Metabolism consists of two parts, catabolism and anabolism. Okay. Without oxygen, none of these would be possible. Nothing can be broken down, nothing can be added up. Yes. So, without capillaries, it is impossible to give out gases from one state to another. It is a basic fluid dynamic that in the alveoli, where the exchange of membrane is very, very thin, at a higher pressure, when a fluid, let's just say blood, is flowing at a high pressure to a lower pressure, it is converting a very high gradient, and on that gradient gases tend to escape and it will go towards the alveoli. So capillaries serve as the point of diffusion. Okay, note it down, it is very important. Bringing it out. So valves are done, capillaries are done, systolic conditions are done. Now the flow of heart from the basis of these two major blood vessels. First, let us know what these diagrams actually mean and what are these differences. So we will be going from the outwards towards the inwards. The more internal you get, the more complex things will start to begin. Okay. What are these structures? These globular structures. Simple thing, these are RBCs, biconcave in nature, devoid of nucleus and endoplasmic reticulum. Okay. RBCs are present in both veins and arteries, basic knowledge. And arteries are more rich in oxygen, and veins being less rich in oxygen as compared to arteries. Basic thing. From the external point, the scientific name that we come across is tunica externa. This external membrane is called the tunica externa. Okay. Coming more inwards, what can be the meaning? Tunica means any tubular structure, but external, medial, internal, right? Higher point of view to a lower point of view, bigger to smaller. So from the main point of view, tunica, media. This will be the structure. I hope the spelling is correct. If I am not wrong, I can just check it for verification. Yes, tunica medium. It is correct. Tunica medium. Tunica externa. And going further inwards, what we are observing it is tunica interna. This structure. Tunica interna. Now you'll be seeing that what are these structures? My friend, this is the junction of cells with respective nucleus, and cells, when they perform a specific function with coordination to each other, they form what exactly? They form, from the principle of emergence, as you have read, they form a tissue. Thumb rule in botany or zoology is, from cell organelles they give rise to cells, cells give rise to tissues, tissues give rise to organs, good, organs give rise to organ system, good, and from organ system an organism is formed. That is how from underlying factors the emergence of several factors are occurring. This is called the principle of emergence. Okay. Now, from basic observation, the thing is that the point of difference is not occurring from the tunica externa. It is same in the tunica externa. From the external point of view, it is the same. Okay. Difference starts to begin from the tunica media. Right here, you are seeing that it has tunica media beginning from a very later point of view than the tunica media in veins. Right? Basic. So what does it mean? Their internal structure is different. If structure is different, then their function must be different. Yes. So arteries, what do they do? Remember that AIPMT 2000, I think 1989 question, definitely yes. Or AIPMT 2011 in the PYQ, it was said that when arteries are best defined as when they carry blood away from the heart. Whenever they carry blood away from the heart, they carry blood at a higher pressure. Bernoulli's principle, if you have heard of it, although I won't be discussing it what the actual principle is, but according to Bernoulli's principle, to carry out a fluid's external pressure, we have to reduce its cross-sectional area, right? It should be inversely proportional. It is a physical term, mathematical term, but just to give you this idea, that's why arteries are having lesser diameter of tunica media as compared to veins, because veins, they carry blood away from the heart. Veins carry blood towards the heart, from the lungs towards the heart, for purification. Yes, that is why arteries, they are having this difference in the tunica media. Next is tunica interna. Tunica interna is having another external name. It is extremely important, and it is called as endothelium. I'm again repeating that this lecture will be very, very detailed, and we'll be discussing every single topic without any gap. Okay, so this is why tunica interna is known as endothelium. If you will study about the structural organization in class 11 syllabus, it is having the portion of animal tissues. It is excluded from the syllabus of boards in CBSE, but it is indeed included in NEET and NEST and IT as well. So from there you'll be studying about the endothelium's name and its actual name, from where it arises from. Tunica interna is called endothelium for both veins and arteries. New term that we'll be discussing in this section is lumen. Lumen. This entire region from tunica media to tunica interna, what we are seeing is that veins are having a wider lumen as compared to arteries. Yes? Write this down in your key points. Veins have a wider lumen as compared to arteries. Very good. So see, slowly we are making progress in this topic. So this is the actual difference between arteries and veins, and that is why they are having a difference in the pressure dynamics, in their fluid dynamics, and why they are having the separate structure and separate function. I hope it is clear to you. We have just finished a really interesting topic, and from this you will be understanding that why atrial diastole and why ventricular systole is having its similar in function as compared to the valves. Okay, very good. Running it out. I hope you have noted it down. If you have not yet, skip the video towards 10 to 15 seconds behind it and you can copy it again. Very good. This is a key point we learned. We also learned another key point in valves as well, but I think you have noted it down. Names of valves are done. Now coming to the main hero of today's topic, being circulation. Very well. Coming to these two diagrams, what can you infer? This is a simple basic question. I'm giving you time to think about this. What can you infer from these two diagrams? Pause the video, think about it, and if you have the courage and time to say your answer confidently, go to the comment section and type out your answer, and I will be happy to reply if it is correct or not. Okay? So, actual inference that you can draw from these two diagrams is that the contraction and relaxation of the heart's muscles. Yes, very good. We did study about valves, but we still have not yet come across the actual points of projections. Remember the points of projections from where the valves are attached to the septums of the heart? We did not yet, but still these two diagrams will be very helpful in understanding the systolic and diastolic conditions of different chambers of the heart, be it from the upper atrials or the lower ventricular. Okay. Valves are consisting of two major points. Valves are arised from, let's just see how good your guesses are and how good you have actually studied on your lower classes. Valves arises from what? Think, pause the video and think. Use your common sense. Okay, done. So actually valves arise from external points of the projections of the septum known as papillary muscles. Very good. If you have guessed it right, then very good. Papillary muscles. General junction of between valves and papillary muscles arising from between these two situations. But this area of junction is conducted by another structure called chordae tendineae. Yes, very important. Most extremely important, one of the most repeated questions from ICSE board is this concept, chordae tendineae. If you do have the book from Concise by Serena, this is not sponsored, but still if you do have the book, you will be seeing these diagrams present in it and you will be getting a better illustration from there, but not possible to draw it in just pen and paper, but still till this point of projection, okay, till this point of projection it is the valve, imagine it, but this area is the chordae tendineae. Okay, and the projection till the heart, that area is the papillary muscle. Okay. So this is the actual emergence of valves from the heart. Again, repeat with me. First can the papillary muscles. Okay. From papillary muscles, we go to chordae tendineae. From chordae tendineae, we go to valves. Okay. If you have noted it down, then may I have it? Okay. Slowly progressing. Slowly, really progressing. So, if you still not yet have understood the elementary concept again, I'm still telling you to pause the video and skip it back, because now things will start to get interesting. It is now the concept will be beginning from all the concept that we have learned for the past 30 to 20 minutes. Okay. Flow of the blood from different conditions of the heart. Okay. First, let's just say for atrial systole. Okay. For atrial systole, what you're observing is whenever the heart is relaxing, okay, whenever the heart is in general relaxation state, we see that it is consisting of atrial systole and ventricular diastole. Okay. That means the atrial chambers are in contraction and ventricular chambers are in diastolic condition or relaxation conditions. Okay, very good. Now the emergence of the general valves we had already discussed. The bicuspid valve, the tricuspid valve. The simultaneous opening and closing of 4 major valves give rise to the flow of blood to the lungs and to the tissues under these 2 conditions. I am repeating it again. Okay. 4 major valves are responsible for the blood flow towards the lungs and the tissues under these 2 conditions. One being the bicuspid valve, second being the tricuspid valve, third being, can you guess it? Yes, you have absolutely guessed it. This one, this valve. I had simply hidden it from your point of view that this right here is a valve. Remember the point where we had already do the 2 blood vessels and I gave you example of the valves. That structure was the example of this valve, and this valve has specific name. Can you guess it? If you do guess it, then it is very, very good, and I would definitely congratulate you if you just simply guess it from your basic knowledge, because it is not something natural that a human can guess its name. I am a biological nerd, if you can tell me, but still, I did not yet guess its name on my first observation. Okay, I think you have guessed it. It is named as semilunar valve. Right? Now, where did this word come from? Semilunar valve. From the word lunar. Lunar, have you ever come across? Remember that we, again, a geographical term, that moons, lunar eclipses. Remember the concept? So the word lunar is derived from the term moons. Yeah. So this is a moon. Just a rough structure that this is a moon, and it is resembling a spherical shape in 3 dimensions. But for planes, we are observing it as a simple circular structure. Circular structure is having this lunar shape. Now, if I cut this into this area, it was not exactly, but still, if I cut it on a transverse section, then this will become semilunar. In fact, it will become a semicircle. Now, this rough structure is present over here. If you view it from, imagine that this is the heart. Imagine that this is the heart. Yes, focus on the topic right now. This is the heart, and if I rotate it towards yourself, if I rotate this heart towards yourself, then you will be viewing it from the top to bottom view. Top to bottom view, if you watch this valve, then it will resemble this kind of a valve. Somewhat it will resemble this kind of a valve. Exactly. That is how the exact valve will be showing. I just drew it from a magnification point of view because it will be difficult to see from such a small area. But I just draw it on a magnified view. Magnifying this, you will be seeing that it is somewhat resembling a semilunar shape. So that's where this word semilunar valve comes from. Okay. Now again, you told me that semilunar valve is this. Then why are we saying it for 4 types? Let's just see how strong your IQ is. You just told me that there are 4 types of major valves that are responsible for the atrial systolic or atrial diastole or ventricular diastole or ventricular systole conditions. Yes? My friend, my audience, actually the word semilunar valve is a type of a valve, not the kind of a valve. Okay? The difference between kinds and different types, it is very important to know. It is a basic terminological term. Semilunar valve is a type of a valve, but 4 kinds of valve are responsible for these conditions. First exactly is this one. This is called, the exact terminological term for this valve is, it is in the pulmonary area. Roughly, if you can see that we are actually talking about this valve. This valve is this one. This is from where the pulmonary trunk is arising. The pulmonary artery is arising. So what can we name this? Pulmonary semilunar valve. Okay. This is one valve. And the 4th one, what can the 4th one be? Can it be aortic? Yes, you're absolutely right. This semilunar valve is arising from the aorta or from the pulmonary vessels, the pulmonary veins. Just from rather a very basic knowledge, what can you tell me from this? Can it be for the pulmonary veins or for the aorta? Yes. This is a very interesting question, that what can I guess from this? We already talked about the pulmonary semilunar valve. Yes? Yes, you're absolutely right. It won't be for aortic. So why? Why not aortic? Because whenever the heart is in systolic condition, whenever it is in contracting condition, then for the blood it will flow. If you can just watch this diagram, it is contracting, that is in ventricular systole, and it will flow the blood from the heart towards the tissue through the aorta. That means the blood will follow this, not this. This is for the pulmonary vessels. Yes, it is for the pulmonary vessels, but this is the aorta. Right? So, on the fact, it will be aorta. It will be aortic. I hope the names of the valves are clear to you now. Alright. Topic of valves is done. The names of the valves are done. Situations not yet done. That is where the main fun is beginning now. Focus again. I know this topic will be difficult to comprehend because it is not realistically to do experimentally or through practical, but just as this from we can basically derive from a basic theory as well. It is not that possible to give you an accurate illustration of the topic just from theory itself. You have to explore different books, you have to explore through the internet, and you have to grasp this idea that how is that possible? Because we are studying about a 3-dimensional phenomenon. Am I right or wrong? It is a 3-dimensional phenomenon because it is occurring on a very complex structure. Even if there is a Leonardo da Vinci's, what can we say? It's a theory, it's a basic theory that heart's chambers are creating a vortex. Again, it is a fluid dynamic. If you have studied mechanical properties of fluids, then can you understand that how creating a vortex can you increase the mechanical property of a fluid from a higher pressure to a lower pressure. Okay, so that is an external point. If you do have the time, then you can watch it. Again, So atrial systole and ventricular diastole. Atrial diastole and ventricular systole. Different structure. Is it a different structure? No, not yet. It is somewhat resembling the same structure but at a very microscopic level. Muscular movement is done by the septums under what? The conduction of an impulse. Okay. Key point again. Cardiac muscular contraction / relaxation is performed by conduction of an impulse. Extremely important. We will be coming back to the topic of the conduction of an impulse on a separate point, but for now, imagine that it is just beating under the influence of an impulse, as all muscles do. Okay. Atrial systole, ventricular diastole. From the first case 1 and case 2. From the first case, whenever the heart is in normal situation, that is in relaxation, general relaxation, let's just term it as general relaxation, and let's term it as general contraction. Okay. Now, under general relaxation, these two conditions are fulfilled. Under general contraction, these two conditions are fulfilled. Now, basically, what can you infer from these two cases? From the first case, we are seeing that the ventricular is diastolic condition is relaxed. That means blood is flowing into the heart. Okay. Each chambers are giving a rise to different valves. Okay. I am writing it on a rough sketch right over here. If you do see it, first point is that tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve serves at a junction between right atrium and right ventricle. It will serve the junction between the right atrium and the right ventricle. Okay. Secondly, the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve. Under mitral valve, it is serving a junction between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay. Third, pulmonary semilunar valve, right? But again, just so that it is on a compact writing, we will be considering as semilunar valves with pocket valves. Okay. Imagine that if you do have pants. Okay. For pants, we are seeing we do have pockets, right? In pants, we have pockets. Now, pockets are very compact in nature. So is this semilunar valve. They act as pockets, and pockets, they do serve as the entry and the exit of different materials, and in this case it is a fluid named blood. Okay, this short tricks will help you to understand the names and the terminologies of external components of the heart. Okay, pulmonary pocket valves. That means it can be this and it can be these. Can be these. This is for the pulmonary artery or the pulmonary vein. Yes, exactly right. It is the pulmonary artery because it is carrying deoxygenated blood. Pulmonary, reverting the case of the former, right? So it is pulmonary artery, and these arteries are the pulmonary veins. So pulmonary pocket valves will serve as a junction between. First case we can derive this from the right ventricle and the lungs, and on the second basis is between the right ventricle and left ventricle. It definitely is left ventricle, right ventricle and the lungs. So that is why it is forming a junction between the ventricles and the lungs. Okay, and the fourth one being the aortic pocket valves. It is a simple theory, nothing to be so tensed about. So aortic pocket valves will be serving as for this measure. So that is for right ventricle or left ventricle. Definitely it is for left ventricle because it's systolic. It is for under general contraction. So under general contraction it will be left ventricle and the tissue / body. Yes, it is very tiring to write all of this data, but still it is very important. You cannot skip this topic. Okay. So this is the basic junctions between the each and every valves, and what are they serving as between 2 points for A to B. Okay. Now under atrial systole, first case is observed that blood is flowing inside the heart. Blood is flowing inside the heart from the pulmonary aorta, pulmonary artery and the aorta under ventricular diastole. Imagine that if any system is under contraction, that means its volume is contracting, means its volume is decreasing, right? But in this case, it's a solid structure. You cannot apply that same logic here. So volume here is constant, right? External volume is constant, but internally, due to the change in pressure and the change in the fluid's volume, its internal volume is not constant. So that means contraction will reduce its volume, and diastolic condition means it is expanding, it is relaxing. So blood will flow inside the heart, increasing its volume. Fantastic concept. If you do come across the topic under fluids again, you will be very familiar with the topic. And again, there is a kinetic theory of gases and fluids. From there, you can also get this concept very clear. We will be posting videos on this topic further on, and from there, you can definitely get your topic cleared. So under diastolic condition, it is relaxing. So that means it is expanding. Under expansion, volume is increasing, but for here, it is a systolic condition. So it is a very important dynamic process. Circulation of the heart, fluid and blood across all the other components of the body, it is indeed a dynamic process. It is in equilibrium with another. Okay, that means whenever the atrium is in systolic condition, the ventricle will always be in diastolic condition. Same goes for the opposite. Under atrial systole, that means the atrium are in contraction. That means their volume is decreasing, right? Think very conceptually. It's a very important thing, and you should not be diverted during this point. It is my job to get your topics cleared from this point now, that under atrial systole, it is contracting, reducing its volume, increasing its volume. Reducing volume, that means every process must be in equilibrium with another. That is the law of conservation of mass, and from there it is always conserved. Volume of blood cannot be increased in the human body, but it can be decreased. Yes, because if the amount of blood is increased, then blood pressure will increase. Volume is increasing, pressure is also increasing. Okay. So under this concept, we are seeing is that volume is decreasing right here. By default, if the atrial systole is occurring, to compensate for that loss, the ventricular diastole has to occur simultaneously, because apart from that, the volume won't decrease and the system won't be in equilibrium. Just from basic knowledge, basic knowledge, imagine that this heart is a system. It is a machine. It is a basic biological machine that is responsible to keep you alive. It is a very important organ in the human body, and you cannot ignore its importance. Being a human, you should know your bodies. own components and how do they work. Only then you can be interested if you do study this topic with your heart, soul and mind. Okay. So that is why these two processes should occur dynamically. Okay. Now the flow. From where do this flow occur? Under ventricular diastole, atrial systole is occurring. That means the blood from the atria is flowing towards the ventricles. You can just follow the hearts. Just follow the heart's arrows and you can see that I have marked these two arrows to indicate the blood is trying to flow towards the pulmonary veins, but it's this pulmonary pocket valve that is not allowing it to go beyond it. So it is restricting its flow. Under that restriction, the blood is forced to move under these two areas, these two chambers. This is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle, right? Again, remember the axis concept, the geometric right is the biological left, right? So under this, the blood is flowing from the aorta to the ventricle. What does this result in? I told you that the tricuspid valve is responsible to solve the junction between the right atrium and the right ventricle. Didn't I? So this is responsible for the allowing of blood to flow from the atria to the ventricle. If this situation is open, that means blood will flow inside. Same goes for right here. Same concept, just follow it for the left atrium and left ventricle. What valve is responsible? Without looking at the board, tell me, what valve is responsible to solve the junction between the left ventricle and the left atrium? Yes, you're right, it is the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve. Two cusps. From what? Again, active recall right here. Actively recall the concept. Valves arising from what? Papillary muscles, chordae tendineae and valves. Okay. It is not a separate thing as well. Okay. Valves are not separately. They are formed as a combination of papillary muscles and chordae tendineae. Right. It is from that they can emerge as a valve. Very good. Same thing is occurring. It is in atrial systole. The left atriums and right atriums are in systolic condition. Their volume is contracting. That means the blood will flow as a fluid towards the ventricles under diastolic condition. That means their volume will increase. That is why the heart will relax like this. Good concept, right? Now, this is case 1 cleared. Okay. Still, we did say that these two valves are closed conditions to restrict its flow from the heart to the lungs. We don't need it. The blood has purified. The blood has to get purified. So we need to send the impure blood from the body to send it back to the lungs. We do not need to send the impure blood to the lungs again for further purification, because we already need the pure blood to enter the heart again. Okay? Slowly we will be understanding this concept. Don't need to worry. This is case 1 done. Case 2, general contraction. So, general contraction. As I told you about the dynamic process that are occurring between this general relaxation, general contraction, the only difference is that the systolic and diastolic condition of different chambers will be different. Just the exact opposite of each another. If this is expanding, then this is contracting. If this is contracting, this is expanding. Vice versa of the others. The main discussion will be the flow of the blood in different chambers and the opening and closing of different valves. Now, as you can see that these valves are in open condition. That means under contraction, the ventricles will pump the blood from the right and left ventricles towards the aortic pulmonary valve and the pulmonary artery valve. That means from this side, the impure blood will reach the lungs for purification, and from this side, this area will do systemic circulation and the pure blood will go from the left ventricle to the tissue. Remember the infinity loop? Exact same concept is applied here. Now the valves that are closed, that means these two valves are closed. If these two valves are indeed closed, that means it will exactly block the blood that will be reaching from the left ventricle towards the upper atriums. Now remember that these cuspid valves, the tricuspid valve and the dimetral valve, serve as the junction between right atrium, right ventricle and left atrium. To stop this backflow of the blood, where the external pulmonary veins, pocket valves are open, and the mixing of blood does not occur, we need these two valves to be closed. Otherwise, the impure blood and pure blood will start to mix. Got it? That is the exact concept being applied. So what do we see? That under ventricle systole, the main general contraction is occurring between ventricle systole, and that's why we come across a term that is called LVEF, left ventricular ejection fraction. From different ages, under different age groups, this value is variable. Generally, under average conditions, what do we see? That this ventricle systole will have its duration around 0.3 seconds. Under 0.3 seconds. Whereas under the atrial systole or the under ventricular diastolic condition, this event will occur around about 0.15 seconds. This fraction will be the ratio of these two values, and these two values are variable for different age groups. Now, just as I told you about that, from this case to this case, either from this phase to this phase, this junction period is having a different name, that is joint diastole. But rather, there is a different point of discussion, that whether this joint diastole will have a different value, because whenever you are transitioning from one phase to another, you have to go through an intermediate phase. So this value is also a variable term. Round about these two values are just approx value, but again, for any average adult human, this must be the case. Yes, but still, just for verification, I will refer to my textbook. Yes, the systolic condition of the atrium, that will be 0.1 seconds, and the systemic condition of the ventricles will be 0.3 seconds. This joint diastole will have a variable value. Definitely, it will have a variable value being 0.4 seconds. 0.4 seconds. Whenever you're talking about the values of the ventricle diastole and ventricle systole, that means indirectly what we're implying is that the atriums will also be in diastolic condition and the atriums will be in systolic condition as general relaxation. So these values also imply to atriums as well. Indirectly. But just so we know that, because the exact waves of the rhythms and the beats per minute, that generally what do we know, that 72 beats per minute is the general heart rate. But such that we are knowing about the time period of each ventricular systole, we can indirectly imply that these values are also implying to atriums, systolic and diastolic conditions. As simple as that. No need to complicate it more. Now, you know about the valves that are open and closed in different relaxation and contraction states. You know what are the points are. You know which parts are doing pulmonary and systemic circulation. You know what these values are for each and every dynamic process. Congratulations, you know the ultimate process of circulation. Now, the topic is arising between conduction of the impulse. Extremely important. You cannot ignore this. So I'm rubbing this out. If I have noted it, I'm rubbing this out. So we will be discussing this topic on a very short basis, because it is not so important for board exams, but extremely important for competitive level. Just to give you an introductory part, we will be only discussing about the position and the function and the location of different nodes that are responsible for the impulses conduction. So this diagram will be enough to get you to explain the concept. For students who are in CBSE board, I would tell you to just go ahead and get a good idea about the topic that is going to be discussed right now. If you do not have the access of the resource, I will provide a short PDF about the notes that have occurred from this topic, and you can surely click on the link below in the description and get access to the notes. So, conduction of the impulse. Let's explain it. First and foremost, the primary node that is responsible for conduction of the impulse is the sinoatrial node, and in short it is called as SA node. Very important. So position, it is kind of exactly located in this area. in this area. It is roughly positioned in this area. So its location is roundabout in the right atrium, distributing towards the intra-atricular ventricular, not atricular, it should be atrio-ventricular septum. Okay, this is the exact position. Now, what should this actually mean? Why are nodes being responsible for conduction of an impulse? So just for a basic understanding, imagine that node is just a small portion. A node is just a small portion of any nerve fiber or be it any neuron. So nodes are responsible for this conduction of impulse. It is from this site that the impulse would begin. If you do know how an electrocardiogram works or how electrocardiography works, you will know that we will be seeing a wave, that is the PQRST wave complex. It is a very advanced topic, but still, just to give a brief introduction, the wave must go like this. The wave must go roundabout like this. And somewhat this QRS complex, this wave is called this wave will be this, the QRS complex. This is P, this is Q, this is R, this is S. And from S to T it can be either like this or somewhat it can go like this. This QRS wave complex is responsible for the repolarization, depolarization and polarization. These three complexes are responsible for the conduction of ventricles, systole and atrial diastole, that is under general contraction. Okay, we won't be discussing it now. We'll post a short video on that, but still just to give a brief idea, this is the responsibility of the sinoatrial node. Okay. Next node that is responsible for the conduction of the nerve impulse is the second node, being the atrioventricular node or the AV node. The atrioventricular node or the AV node. Now this is located like a branch. It is more like a branch. So as I told you that this is the septum, this highlighted blue shaded region is the septum, but just to give you a brief idea about the location, I will be drawing this out. Now, the atrioventricular node is having a distributive location. So from where to where should it be located? It will slowly arise from this point and it will go go around the atrioventricular septum and go around the entire heart. So it will resemble like a W shape. It will somehow resemble like a W shape, because if this is the heart and this region is the atrioventricular septum and this area is the lower ventricular septums, it will just go around the entire heart. This is a generation point, this is a distributive point. And this, from this concept itself, we determine that how a person's ECG graph will be determined. Now location, just from this diagram you can tell it that begins from the, it exactly begins from the, not the left but right ventricular septum, branches along intra-atrioventricular septum and terminates along, just don't mind my handwriting, but just for your rough understanding that and it terminates along the, exactly terminates along the left ventricular septum. This is the rough location of the atrioventricular node. Now, the origin of these nodes. Okay, I'm just going to be rubbing this out, the locations. If you have not written it, then you can skip the video 10-15 seconds before and you can write it down. Now, the atrioventricular node's origin. For both of these, we get the origin. Origin is that, first of all, any node will begin from the walls of the septums. Be it any chambers walls, be it any muscular wall, be it from the papillary muscles, anywhere you can find it. Now, this area from where the muscular fibers are joining the node, this area is called the bundle of His. Now, His is not an acronym. It is definitely not an acronym, but this is somewhat resembling to God Himself, because otherwise, bundle of His means it is given by any spiritual living being, or it is just a hypothesis in general anatomy, but that is the actual name that is given to this muscular fiber. So, origin is that bundle of His, and from there it is branching toward the node, and from there it is distributing around the entire heart through a new network. Can you recall it? Let's just see if you have studied this topic before. Can you recall the distribution from where the bundle of His and the nodes will take place? Take your time. I'm waiting, just take your time. Think. What can the node use in order to get its branching done? Just think about it. No need to pause the video. I'll be standing just right here and think about it. It is extremely important, because without this, the entire concept of any node will be remaining just like a simple message to you. Yes, you have got it correct. It is actually that the bundle of His and the node. What is node exactly? Node is just a portion of a nerve fiber. So, another new term is occurring here, that it will get distributed from Purkinje fibers. Very good. Congratulations. You have got your answer correct. This is the basic idea about the conduction of the impulse. Bundle of His goes to the node, distribution done by the Purkinje fibers. So this concept is the biological aspect of a node. Sometimes whenever a failing heart is conducting any heartbeat, let's just say for general basis 72 beats per minute, 72 BPM in short. So from there what we are seeing is that generally the heart is beating 72 times per 60 seconds or per minute. Sometimes there is a special case that a patient will undergo, and that is called myocardial infarction or deadening of any heart's tissue. Because externally, if a tissue is dead, that means thrombosis has occurred in that area. Deadening of the tissue, blockage of the tissue, blockage of the coronary artery, many factors are responsible for contributing to this factor. And if that myocardial infarction is occurring, that means the heart cannot get enough supply by its own in order to survive and pump blood to the rest of the body. Okay, simple language. So in that cases, these valves, these nodes these nodes will reduce its efficiency, and whenever its efficiency is reduced, then the beats per minute will reduce and the body will start getting weaker. On that cases, artificial node is placed just along this SA node, and this node is replaced by a pacemaker, okay, to increase its pace and increasing its beats per minute. Very basic concept. So I hope you have understood this concept. It is very basic, it was not too difficult, and I hope you have noted it down. And it is extremely important for competitive exams, because nodes are extremely important to get you to understand the ECG graph. which we'll be discussing in a short video. Stay tuned for it. Now, the next portion is that I will be giving you some questions just as before and try to solve them honestly, and if you still have not get the concept yet, be my guest to rewind the video again and go through the concepts thoroughly. Okay? Alright, so now it is time for us to solve some very, very important questions. Now, look at the first question. Again, if you do have the patience, then you can directly watch the solution, but it is my personal request that you pause the video and try to solve these questions by your own. It is very simple, even though these are PYQs from previous year questions from AIPMT, that is All India Pre-Medical Test, and some of them are very repeated. As you can see, this question is repeated 4 times in a row: 2004, 2002, 1999 and 1994. So it's a very repeated question. I sort of thought of giving it to you. So again, pause the video. It will take 10 to 11 seconds for you to solve it. So be my guest. Okay, done? So the solutions are that the first question being pacemaker of the heart is option 1, the atrioventricular node, second being bundle of his sinoatrial node, and the Purkinje fibers. Even though this question is very easy, but still it is one of the most repeated questions in the All India Medical Test, which was actually the only medical test for the All India basis, which is now currently the NEET, National Entrance Examination Cum Test. So this is the most important question that you should be knowing about. So basically what you can do is you can solve this by simple elimination. First of all, this definitely won't be the answer, so you can cross it out, because pacemaker is responsible for increasing and decreasing, not decreasing, but to keep the pace at the heart's rate on a constant level or keep it gradually increasing. Yes, under the action of certain hormones. It is a different topic. But these two are definitely not responsible, because they are just junctions and distributive portions of a single node. Alright? The topic is different between these two, the atrioventricular node and the sinoatrial node. So actually what you can think about is that the generation of any impulse in the heart. In the video itself, I told you that the sinoatrial node is the primary generation point for the impulse. So by default, the pacemaker of the heart will be the sinoatrial node. You got your answer. Congratulations, you have solved the first previous year question. Coming to the second one is that it is a very analytical question and is very important to know about, because this question is requiring a lot of thinking, even though you can get 50% of your analysis just by eliminating the wrong option, but still it is crucial for you to know the actual concept. Okay, so let's just break the question into some components. Line by line, you can see this: if due to some injury, that means an external effort has been made to give the answers condition. So the condition that under an injury, the chordae tendineae. If you can recall what the chordae tendineae is, remember, papillary muscles, chordae tendineae giving rise to valves. Okay, you got your clue from here. The chordae tendineae of the tricuspid valve, which is located between the junction of right atrium and right ventricle. Okay, you got your second clue. Is partially non-functional. You got your third clue. That means for a temporary time, it was not functioning quite well. And immediately, what should be its effect? This is the actual question. Now coming to the option. The first option, the flow of the blood into the aorta will be slower. Absolutely wrong. Because the aorta's flow is not regulated by a tricuspid valve. The flow of the ventricle is regulated by the tricuspid valve. If the tricuspid valve is closed, that means the blood has already entered the atrium but not the ventricle. Are you getting the concept? But it is definitely true that if it be ventricle, then it should be slow. So that is absolutely wrong. Secondly, the pacemaker will stop working. No. The pacemaker or the SA node or the sinoatrial node is an independent function of the valve, because this is a morphological concept. This is morphological in nature. But the pacemaker in this hand, the pacemaker is a neurological concept. Yes? So these are different function in nature. So we cannot include this simultaneously as a dynamic process. So it is not the correct option. You got your 50% of the options are eliminated. Now, these two options are where the trick is coming into play. The blood will tend to flow back in the left atrium. How is it possible? Imagine that the heart is having an intra-atrioventricular septum. If the septum is present, then how can blood even flow from the right side to the left side? It is not possible. And tricuspid valve is present in the right atrium and right ventricle, the right hand side chambers. So it is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. So there you have your answer. Out of 4, you eliminated 3 and you got your option as the flow of the blood into the pulmonary artery will be reduced. Even if you knew the answer, then directly without elimination, you would also be taking this answer correct. Now, how is the concept behind this? That without elimination, how can you solve this? Flow of the blood into the pulmonary artery will be reduced. Imagine that this was the heart, this was the intraventricular septum, and this was the pulmonary aorta. This was the valve, and this was the tricuspid valve. Now the blood has already entered here. If this was non-functional, it was absolutely functional, then the blood would have gradually be flowing faster, and by rebound force of the ventricular systole, the blood would directly flow towards the pulmonary artery. Now, without the functioning of the tricuspid valve, that means it is not closing properly, it has not closed, but still by ventricular diastole and aortic systole, what do we see? That the blood has already flowed here, and this bicuspid valve has closed. The bicuspid valve has closed, but the tricuspid valve has not closed. So that means under ventricular systole is conducting. Ventricular systole is conducting, but the blood is not properly flowing into the pulmonary artery. That means the flow of blood there will be slower. You got your concept clear. And this was in all in a medical test 2010. Extremely important to know this concept. Now, the third question. Very simple. And I think it is also a repeated question in ICSE boards and AIPMT as well. If my analysis is not wrong, then this question is definitely for AIPMT 1984. Okay. And this question is most probably one of the most repeated questions in boards as well. So simply the concept of love and dove. Love and dove. Now, first love is occurring and dove is occurring. Okay. Now, love is what? The first conduction, the general relaxation. And the general relaxation, what do we see? That the atriums are in diastolic condition and ventricles are in systolic condition. Right? Absolutely wrong. I was testing you. It was absolutely wrong. But in a general relaxation, what do we see? That the atriums are in systolic condition and the ventricles are in diastolic condition. Okay? It is confusing because both the terms are very related. But still, you have to know the sequence. Atrial diastole, ventricular systole. No. Atrial systole, ventricular diastole, joint diastole, and then the ventricular systole. This is the sequence of the heart's conduction. So, first is general relaxation and love is the general contraction. Remember the concept where we discussed about general contraction? Which valves were open and which valves are closed? Same direct question is applied over here. Directly, if you have seen the concept 20 to 10 minutes earlier on, so the answer will be both B and C. The cuspid valves are closed here in bicuspid and tricuspid valves. You got your answer. It was very easy, and I think you have loved the concept. You have went through the analysis, and I think I have given my best in making you understand the concept. It was a very long video, I know, but it is very important for any exam that is having the subject biology itself. Okay, so again, thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, and happy learning.